I want you to think about the thing you most want to create this year. Or let me say it this way, in the next 12 months. The thing you most want to create. What's the first thing that comes up that is a reason why you shouldn't? That's probably a portion of, or the vibration of, your highest limiting belief. So if you think about, this is my year, I'm going to be an abundant coach, I'm going to generate 6 figures in my coaching business, I'm making a huge impact, and the first thing that rises up when you say that is, yeah, but who's going to listen to you? That's likely one of your biggest limiting beliefs. It's like it's like skimming off the top. It's like the first thing that comes up, the first thing that's out there when you think that about your vision. Welcome back to The Abundant Coach. Lauren Brollier-Newton here, your host, your guide. Thrilled to be with you on today's topic, how to identify and overcome your biggest limiting beliefs. So we're going to start with a quote, as we like to, and that is this: argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you have somewhat of an awareness of that your thinking is going to lead to a lot of all the results, but maybe you're not there yet. So I'll put it this way, that your thinking has something to do with your results. That I can't constantly think negative and expect an expansive result. I mean, I think for most people that is clear. That doesn't mean you necessarily know how to do it, but that's pretty clear. And yet it's so interesting how many of us argue for our limitations, why we can't. So we're going to dive in today to your biggest limiting beliefs. This is absolutely, the more I do this work, so this is I'm going on, let me think here, 7 years of really living this work, being an abundant coach, living from transformational principles. This is my 7th year. For 5 years prior to when I started studying at Brave Thinking Institute, I was studying personal development. I didn't apply it very well in my life. I didn't know what to do, but at least for 5 years prior, I had experience. I started studying in 2013. So I had, a good 11 years now, going on 12, of really being seeped in this work. The more I do this, the more I realize, and I know it's not satisfying to hear this sometimes, because we want the strategy. We want the, how do you do this? How do you do that? Really, I can tell you that the number one thing is the way that you think about yourself in the world. The way you think will mean everything. I always share with our coaches at the Institute, I can give you all the strategy in the world. I can tell you exactly how to fill a 100-person vision workshop. I could literally tell you how to do that. I could make a podcast episode on that. And 5,000 people will listen to it, and I would guarantee you, I would bet money on it, that maybe out of 5,000 people, one would take action on actually implementing the plan that I laid out for them. And the reason why is because it's all about mindset. It's not, I don't believe that for becoming a successful coach, that it actually has really anything to do with not knowing what to do. I think all of you actually know what to do. I could network. I could go get speaking engagements. I could talk to my warm market. I could post on social media. I could spend some time on LinkedIn. There's a million different things I could do. Why don't we do them more consistently, regularly, and boldly? It's mostly because of our mindset. In my own life, I can tell you that when I'm really not loving something, or I'm not having the result I would love, I literally say to myself, okay, how have I been thinking about this? And I'm like, oh, well, no wonder why I'm not having the result. It's really uncanny how it really does all come back to mindset. So that's why you would want to overcome your biggest limiting beliefs, because whatever you think is going to be the result. I like to use the example. We have something, so go ahead and write this down. I'm just gonna give you I want to give you an image of a chart that we use a lot at Brave Thinking Institute. And I'd like for you to just draw this picture, okay? So I'd like for you to write, if you're driving, don't draw this picture, but draw this picture in your mind. If you're listening to this in a place where you can take some notes, jot this down. So I want you to write the word thinking, and then after the G, make an arrow pointing to the right. And then write the word feelings. And then after the S on feelings, right, make an arrow pointing to the right. And then write the word action. And after the N on action, make an arrow pointing to the right. And then write the word results. So thinking becomes feelings, becomes action, becomes results. So I want to give you an example of this. We call this the results formula. So let's say it's this little thing called COVID-19 happening. Let's say I'm a person whose dream it's been to open up a craft store, like a place that you could actually sew, knit, do crafts. Like you can actually sit in this shop and do these crafts, okay? And I've had this dream for, let's say 20 years. Or let's say you've had a client. Let's just say you've had a client that's had that dream. And COVID strikes. And they start thinking the thought, well, this is a terrible time. I mean, I know I've been wanting this for 20 years, but this is a really terrible time because this is an in-person experience I'm dreaming of building. And like, nobody's going to open an in-person experience during COVID. I mean, that would be stupid. Everything's closed down where I live. And to think about opening something where you can't even go in person, what if we never go back in person? Like, no, I'm not doing that. Think about the feelings that leads to. So that person's thinking a thought, and the feelings it's leading to is despair, disappointment, frustration, fear. Like from that feeling state, what's the action that person is likely to take? They're not going to take any action. They're going to keep this dream that they've had for 20 years in its wanting state. And the result is going to be, I still don't have that store. Thinking becomes feelings, become actions, become results. Now, let's say the person thinks a different thought. Maybe they have a coach like you who says, all right, I hear you. Let me help you think a different thought. And the different thought is this. So let's say the person thinks this thought instead. Okay, I've wanted this for 20 years. I'm not letting COVID stop me. Let me think about this. So I want an in-person experience. I get that we can't go in person about it, but I do have an idea. What if, because most of my state is locked down, that the commercial real estate gets really cheap? And what if people are wanting to get out of their leases or get out of their buildings, and I could get this at the best price that I could have ever gotten in the last 20 years? What if this is my opportunity? And while the world is sleeping, what if I go in there and I design it exactly as I'd love? And then when the world backs up, I will be the first person opening my doors with a ribbon ceremony, opening my new business. What kind of feelings does that thinking lead to? Hope, opportunity, possibility, a feeling of hope, taking a risk, taking a chance, betting on yourself. I don't know if all those are feelings, but it's got this feeling of potential, excitement, enthusiasm. It's thrilling. So that's the feeling this person has. Now, they might take an action from that feeling tone, and the action could be, I'm going to call a real estate agent and just see what's possible. And the likelihood that on that thinking wavelength that leads to the result that she hadn't been able to get for 20 years up until that point, she opens the shop, she breaks ground. So why does that matter to you? Because I want you to see that this overcoming of limiting beliefs, it's not just woo-woo. It's not like, oh, us personal development people, we love to do this. It's literally, you've got to change something or else nothing's going to change. Let's talk about this. How do I now, so I know that my thinking is very important. I know it's going to lead to different results. Let me just share with you an example from my own life recently, because I want you to see how this works, even just on little things. I was recently feeling super overwhelmed. And I have a coach here at Brave Thinking Institute. She's our master coach, Kirsten Wells. I would highly recommend not doing this without a coach. If you want to be an abundant coach, my opinion is have a coach. Believe in your own model. I believe in my model. That's why I have my own coach. So Kirsten, I literally am just vomiting limiting beliefs all over her. And it was about how I'm overwhelmed and my schedule is so busy, and I'm a new mom, and I'm running the coach division here at Brave Thinking Institute, and I'm recording the podcast and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, if I was really living, if I was really doing what I want, I would be outside sauntering. Sauntering is a term coined by Henry David Thoreau, which is a walking meditation. He calls it sauntering. I would be sauntering for an hour a day, and then I would get ideas that would move me way further than all this overwhelm and blah, blah. Okay, so here I do. Kirsten, among other things, gave me a lot of coaching, but one of the things that she said that blew my mind, she changed my thinking. If I was really living the life that I was wanting to live, I would be outside sauntering for an hour a day. She heard that. She could feel encoded in that statement my vision for what I would love in my life. And she said, all right, I understand and I hear you saying that. Maybe you don't feel that you have the ability to saunter for an hour a day, but would you be willing to saunter for 1 minute? So the limiting belief was, I'm not living the life I love because I'm so overwhelmed and this and that, and I would be sauntering for an hour a day. But Kirsten knows. She knows I can saunter for 1 minute. And encoded within that 1 minute is the feeling of a life that I love. And she knows if I go out there for 1 minute and saunter that I'm going to feel less overwhelmed. And thinking becomes feelings. When she helped me think the thought, would I be willing to saunter for 1 minute? I was an overwhelming yes. And then I felt like, oh, this might be easier than I thought. The feeling was relief. And the action I took was I did saunter for 1 minute. And then since then, I've turned up the volume and I've been doing 5 minutes a day, or sometimes even 10 minutes I go outside. And that's led to a different result, which is, as of now, that was only probably 2 months ago I said that to her. I have not felt that feeling of overwhelm like that for weeks, because I was willing to change one piece of thinking with support at the front end of the results formula. All right. So how do you overcome your biggest limiting beliefs? First of all, you have to identify what they are. Okay, so one easy way, for some of you, you're just going to know this is that damn persistent voice that keeps coming back. Okay, some of you are just going to know what your limiting belief is. But for those of you who either have a lot of limiting beliefs up until now, and you're like, oh, how do I choose just one? Or maybe you don't know what your limiting beliefs are. I want you to think about the thing you most want to create this year. Or let me say it this way, in the next 12 months. The thing you most want to create. What's the first thing that comes up that is a reason why you shouldn't? That's probably a portion of, or the vibration of, your highest limiting belief. So if you think about, this is my year, I'm going to be an abundant coach, I'm going to generate 6 figures in my coaching business, I'm making a huge impact. And the first thing that rises up when you say that is, yeah, but who's going to listen to you? That's likely one of your biggest limiting beliefs. It's like it's like skimming off the top. It's like the first thing that comes up, the first thing that's out there when you think that about your vision. So that is something I would write down. Write that one down. Who's going to listen to you? Take a piece of paper. You can write a very short, 3-sentence summary of what you most want to create in the next 12 months. And then you can write down all the beliefs that come up against it. And there might be one on there when you think about it that you say, you know what, if I'm honest with myself, that type of belief has come up throughout my life. So I'll give you an example of this. When I was first divorced and becoming a coach, I had total money paradigms. Total, like, you suck at money, you've never been good at it, you're not going to be able to do this as a coach, blah, blah, blah. When I looked back over the course of my life, I could see that was a very persistent limiting belief that I had. That I would never be good with money, and money's hard to come by, and I suck at money, and money sucks because it's hard to come by, all of that. So if I wrote down the fears that were coming up for me, I would say that was not only a dominant one, but also one that I had experienced for my whole life. So that would be a recommendation to you, is like, identify the beliefs, just write them all down, but then look for the ones that, if you're honest with yourself and transparent with yourself, they've been around for a really long time. Another one that I had when I very first started visioning was that I'm not lovable. That was the paradigm. I have since completely eliminated that paradigm. Completely. Like, I don't even feel an ounce of it anymore, which is great. But when I first started this work, that came up a lot when I was, part of my vision was to fall in love again. So that limiting belief of not lovable, I could think back to being 6 years old and thinking that thought. So, that's been there for a long time. So what's coming up? And pick the one that's been around for a while. It's like it's like a very old, I was going to say an old friend, but I don't think we'd keep a friend around that does that stuff. So now you have the limiting belief. One invitation that you can do with it is to hold that belief. When I say hold that belief, like, imagine holding it in your hands and having some sort of a ceremonial release, and then we're going to repattern of that belief. What I mean by ceremonial is, don't just try to repattern while you're in the drive-thru buying some French fries and eating them on the way home and try to repattern. No, give this a little bit of space. Write down that limiting belief. Thank it for whatever sort of protection it offered up until now. In other words, don't make it the enemy. Just say, obviously you were there. You got installed somehow. I believed it was survival. That's why I kept you for so long. Thank you for your service, but I no longer need you. And I'm sending you off into the infinite. Now, you can release this limiting belief in a balloon. You can burn it. Be careful. You can rip it up. You can shred it. There's all sorts you can bury it. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do to really have that ceremonial moment. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, don't delay and not do it because you think it has to be some sort of big ceremony. I could do it right now, sitting right where I am. I could write the beliefs down, write my letter to it, rip it up and throw it away. But Aristotle said nature abhors a vacuum, meaning you can't just leave an empty space, because what's going to happen is even though you ripped it up, you're going to gravitate right back to it. And it's like your mind is going to glue the pieces of the page back together if you don't have something to replace it with. So what do you choose to believe now? So let me give you a little tip here about repatterning these limiting beliefs. I think that it's very important to find a statement or a series of statements that you can hang your vibrational hat on, so to speak, that resonate with you and help you have some amount of openness and expansion when you read them. So just saying, for I'm not lovable, that quote, that thing I had, that paradigm I had, that limiting belief I had, saying I am lovable, it wasn't enough. My subconscious mind was like, no, you're not. Like it didn't have enough cells of recognition around that. So it was required of me to come up with some other statements that would help bridge the gap from feeling not lovable to feeling lovable, that I could actually sink my teeth into a little bit more. So some of the affirmations I used were affirmations of love. Some of them related to myself, some of them not. So let me share them with you. I love who I am and I love who I'm becoming. That was one of them. Love is welcome here. Another one that I used is I love life and life loves me. I deserve to live a life I love living while I'm living it. So these statements that helped bridge me to self-love, because saying I am lovable, it didn't do it for me. It was like my mind was like, no, you're not. So I had some other statements that helped me bridge to that. An easy way to do this exercise is to just do the polar opposite. If you're lovable, I am lovable. You suck at money, I'm great with money. Yes, you can do that, but sometimes you have to get a little more finessed in order to be able to do this effectively and efficiently. All right, so another tool that can really support you, use something like ChatGPT. If you don't feel like a great writer, if you get stumped like, what do I write? Like, I'm just going to type it in right now. So I'm just going to say this to ChatGPT. Let's see what it says. I have noticed a self-limiting belief that I am not lovable. Please give me some affirmative statements to help me to feel lovable. All right, so ChatGPT just gave me 10 affirmative statements. I am worthy of love exactly as I am. I radiate love and attract it effortlessly. Being myself is enough. I am lovable in my authenticity. I deserve kindness, care, and compassion from myself and others. My imperfections make me beautifully human and even more lovable. Love flows to me and through me in abundance. I am a unique and irreplaceable expression of love in this world. I choose to release the belief that I'm not lovable. It does not serve me. Every day I grow in the belief that I am deeply and profoundly lovable. That's a great one. Let me tell you why that's a great one. Thank you, ChatGPT. Every day I grow in the belief that I am deeply and profoundly lovable. What that one does for your subconscious mind is it tricks it, because I didn't start with I am deeply and profoundly lovable. I started with every day I grow in the belief that I am deeply and profoundly lovable. My subconscious mind will pick it up, but I eased into it by saying I grow. The subconscious mind might not let me believe that I am lovable today, but it will let me believe that I'm growing. And so that's a great one. And then the final one is I am enough. I always have been and always will be. So let's say I don't like the word deserving. I can say to ChatGPT, I like the affirmation, I deserve kindness, care, and compassion from myself and others. But please replace the word deserve and let's see if it gives me something else. Here we go. Instead of I deserve, it tells me to say I welcome kindness, care, and compassion from myself and others. Okay, so I love that experiment because I just want you to know, thinking I don't know what to say, it's not an excuse anymore. We have all the tools in the world. I started with the quote. What was my quote I started with? was Richard Bach. Argue for your limitation, and sure enough, they're yours. So you can argue for, oh, I'm not a good writer, I don't know an affirmative statement. We've got more tools than anybody in the world has ever had up until this point. We have everything at our fingertips. Use the technology available to you to help you with this. All right, so you have some affirmative statements you can say. The other thing that I would say is it's very important to have images of yourself in your mind, so your subconscious mind will pick up anything vividly imagined. It does not know the difference between reality and something that you're just vividly imagining. So when you're visioning for a life that you would love, it's very important to have imagery around what does the result look like. So let me use one of these ChatGPT affirmations. So if I was deeply and profoundly lovable, if I truly believed that, what's a scene I could see in my mind that shows that I now believe I'm deeply and profoundly lovable? I'll give you an example of this. I was just rewriting my own vision today. And at Brave Thinking Institute, we have a model, a method where you vision in 4 different areas of your life: health and well-being, love and relationships, vocation, your work in the world, and time and money freedom. So I was writing my vision statement, and I was writing my health and well-being portion of my vision statement. And I was knowing that I was required to have more imagery so I could really see it and feel it. So actually, if I'm happy to just share it with you. Let me pull it up here because I just wrote it. We're doing a working session today. I love it. I'm pulling it up. Okay. Vision. All right, so here's my health and well-being. I am so happy and grateful now that I'm in the very best shape of my life. My body feels, and I put it in italics, strong, healthy, and vibrant. Now listen to the imagery I put in this next section. I feel like one of those superheroes who can lift something easily with one hand. Notice the image that you got in your mind when I said, I feel like one of those superheroes who can lift something easily with one hand. Did you see a superhero man like lifting a woman with one hand or lifting a building with one hand? So that signifies to my subconscious mind that my body is strong. And I can feel that, and I can see that. I can feel what it would feel like. For example, I have a horse. I can feel, and she has a saddle, and even though it's not a super heavy saddle, lifting that saddle on a horse is, a thing up until now. So now if I could imagine myself, when I say lifting something easily like a superhero, I can imagine throwing that saddle on my horse Athena and it not even feeling heavy. It's just like, it's just light and easy. That's symbolizing to me, that's showing my subconscious mind how strong my body is. So as you're overcoming these limiting beliefs, it's important for you to have these images of what it would feel like with that vision fulfilled. All right, so you know what the limiting belief is, you've identified it, you've ripped it up or had some sort of ceremony around it. Now you have affirmative statements that overcome that belief, and you're gonna have some sort of imagery that helps your mind pick it up even more and faster. The imagery is really, really helpful. Okay, with that said, I wanna share with you one more thing of what to do with these affirmative statements and these scenes or these images. It's not gonna be enough to just read them in the morning when you do your journaling. It's also not going to be enough to just use them when you're freaking out. Richard Bliss Brooke likes to say that you have to be willing to think like a successful person. That the vision, the goal, it has to become your mindset. And I love that because it's so true. So let's say, here's a recipe I might give you for how to make this work really well for you. So you've got these affirmative statements. If I were you, I would not have more than you can memorize. So memorize them. Memorize every single affirmative statement. So you're probably the max you can memorize is probably like, I don't know, some of you have superhero brains, so maybe you can memorize 100. But for me, I've always done better with like maximum 7 or 8. I don't go beyond that. And you can add one a day. So start with your first one, say it over and over again all day long. Like multiple times a day. One way I did this when I first started was every time I got in my car, I would say my vision and my affirmations. But if there's something you do every day, like I drink coffee every day, at least once a day. So maybe when you're making your coffee in the morning, you say them. If you have a habit that you do multiple times a day, like washing your hands, every time you wash your hands, say that affirmative statement. And then every day add on a next statement for memorization until you have all the affirmative statements memorized. Then I want them running like I want them, but you have to want them. I would invite you to have them running like a broken record in your mind. So that when you're washing your hands, you're thinking those statements. When you're taking a shower, when you're driving, when you're watching TV, those statements just come to mind every once in a while. That's what I'm encouraging you to establish a habit around. Very, very important. It's not enough to just say them once, because remember, we're reprogramming a mind that's got a deep groove in my case. I'm not lovable and I suck with money paradigm. There was a deep groove there. And I had to make a new pathway in my brain. I had a client, and she's a good friend of mine now. And she was a fitness coach, and she would tell her clients, like, right now, your old habits are like a wheelbarrow, but it's deep in the ground. It's like 3 feet in the ground. You're moving your way out of that, but then you're going to get to that flat ground, and you're going to have to establish a new groove. Okay, so you're going to have to work it a lot in order to establish that new groove. So multiple times a day, at least 15 minutes a day, spread out throughout the day, I'd invite you to be repatterning these new belief statements. And then every time you repattern, my suggestion to you would be see the images too. So like one of my statements, I'm in the very best shape of my life, easily maintaining 128 pounds. Okay, so now, this is a total sidetrack, but some coaches don't like to put the pounds because it makes people feel constrictive. So for me, it doesn't. It makes me feel super expansive when I think about weight. So just know that. Okay, so I'm the very best shape of my life, easily maintaining 128 pounds. Let's say that's my affirmative statement. But then I can very quickly in my mind's eye see the superhero lifting the building, or see myself throwing Athena's saddle on easily. All right, so now I'm really in the feeling tone of it. So I would recommend that throughout your day, as many times a day as you can think it. And then over time, here's the other thing, don't give up. People will often say, when do I stop using my affirmations, or when do I stop using my vision images? And I say, when they come true. When you fully believe that, then you can stop using them. So that would be my recommendation. All right, beautiful people. Now, don't forget, remember this. You can always email us, podcast@bravethinkinginstitute.com, if you want me to speak about a certain topic. If you have a recommendation for a guest you'd love to see on the show. If you have a question because something was confusing, send it in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, my friends, I love you, and I'll see you on the next episode.
If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss a new upload. You can help our channel continue to grow as we invest in creating more great content for coaches. Lastly, check the description below for helpful links to the resources mentioned in this video. Thank you and have an amazing day.